Woolworths to suspend a meat supplier due to union claims. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Now I'm sure we've all been shopping, perhaps to get coffee for your steins, or perhaps to buy some meat. And we've seen images like these. This is a local Woolworths where the shelves of meat are stripped pretty much bare. There's still some bargains to be had, but it's pretty empty. Similar thing at Coles, shelves empty. Although you usually see the soy stuff is still all right there. And even Aldi, empty. But you got a good, sneaky little $5 steak just waiting out there. I'm sure she's all right, mate. Get your bargain. So then why would Woolworths be suspending, dealings with a meat supplier? And this is written by Alex Turner-Cohen on news.com.au. Let's look at this one. Woolworths suspends dealings with a meat supplier over claims COVID positive staff are forced to work. Now, is there any evidence for these claims? Is it just the union trying to agitate? We'll have to see. Woolworths has temporarily suspended dealings with one of its key meat suppliers over concerns that abattoir staff members were working while COVID positive. South Australian branch of Tees Australia, located near Narracroot, came under scrutiny over the weekend following reports that staff were processing beef while infected with COVID-19 from Monday through to Thursday. Well, it's going to happen. In all reality, it is happening. There will be people working who are asymptomatic who have COVID-19. They're not even going to realize it. They won't even think to get a test. They probably don't even know they encountered someone. I had a mate who just got over COVID. He said it was, the sickest 6 days he'd felt in a long time. Fortunately, he was immunized, so he didn't have any issues with it. I think after the first day, he stopped drinking alcohol. Bloody, doctor. Bloody genius, drinking while you're that sick. Pandemic ravages the world. Just sit there drinking, playing Nintendo. But nonetheless, he didn't know where he got it. No idea. Didn't realize. His wife in the same house didn't catch it, which is lucky. She was pregnant, but he didn't know where he got it. How many people are going to be out there getting it asymptomatic and don't realize? This is what happens when it becomes endemic. So, do we have to appreciate what's more important, continuing food supply and realizing this is going to happen, or reactionary responses to get media attention? At least 140 of its nearly 400 staff members had COVID-19 in that time, according to The Guardian. The abattoir employees were allowed to work as long as they were asymptomatic under an exemption to public health orders because they were deemed essential workers. Okay, so they followed all the rules. They followed all the rules. There you go. What's the problem? How many people do you think are asymptomatic with other things? How many people do you think are walking around asymptomatic with whooping cough or with other illnesses they don't even realize because they're vaccinated against it? News.com.au understands that the COVID positive workers were brought in as the facility needed to process a large amount of meat that otherwise would have gone to waste. And they were allowed to do it. They were deemed essential workers. What is wrong with this, guys? We need to move on from this fear, okay? We're moving on. We need to leave it behind. This is going to be, and it's going to become endemic, everyone. And people are going to die of this. This is slowly going to become just part of life. You've got to deal with it. So prolific was the virus among staff members that they were required to wear different colored hairnets to differentiate between infected and healthy employees. Those who tested positive to the virus wore white hairnets, while COVID-free workers had yellow hairnets. Anonymous workers complained about the demeaning hairnet requirement and were also fearful of having to share toilets and common spaces with their COVID-positive colleagues, sparking outrage from the union. Okay, so what? Oh no, wait, so these guys here, these are all COVID positive, and this person isn't. Well, they're maintaining a safe distance from each other. Deal with it. This is the unions, everyone. They'll destroy more jobs, they'll cut your meat supply, and they'll claim they're the good guys. Wonder why we don't have so many manufacturing in Australia. I just wonder why. What could it be? Do you read some of these employment agreements? Look at what the Toyota workers got, guys. I actually read through I read through their agreement. Read through it. It's insane. I'm coming at this from the perspective of a small business owner, though. So, these perks that people think they deserve, to me, just seem outlandish entitlements. I guess that's just a different perspective. You've got to remember, I'm a first-generation Australian born from immigrants. It's a little different upbringing. The Australian Council of Trade Unions President, Michelle O'Neill, said on Saturday, Woolworths is turning a blind eye to the exploitation of workers by a major food supplier in the supermarket supply chain, who are forcing workers to continue turning up for work even though they're infected. They are deemed essential workers. It's allowed. Okay, so stuff you. Okay, come on. Maybe the union can pay for those workers. Michael Caine, National Secretary of the TWU, also slammed the move. Supply chain accountability is not optional, he wrote. The buck stopped with those at the top. That means you, Woolworths, act now to stop any workers supporting your business from being forced or even asked to work while COVID positive. They're asymptomatic. Okay? Asymptomatic. This is going to happen. What happened back in the day? I'm seeing people share this on Twitter. Back in the day, soldier on with Cottrell. We've become such a bloody generation of soft little bastards, little fairies, that we can't even handle a bit of adversity. What's going on? Late on Sunday, Woolworths indefinitely suspended dealings with the South Australian branch of the Meat Supplier. So they were obeying the rules, ensuring that food was getting processed when we have shortages everywhere of essential food. Okay? Meat is essential for life. Get out of here with your vegan and vegetarian bullshit. You're just a fad. Okay? We'll grow out of that eventually once we realize seed oils is killing all these people. So what? Woolies knows better now? It's understood. The beef processed at the South Australian plant is dispersed to Woolworths stores nationally. Yeah. Heise Australia rejected the claims they were forcing workers work upon sick employees and said everything was within the bounds of public health orders. They were following the rules, and the unions are pissed off because frankly, because they're not really relevant anymore. Okay? People are so mollycoddled here in Australia that you don't even need a union anymore. And they're losing relevance. Majority of members are middle-aged women in the public sector. Just remember that. In a statement to news.com.au, a spokesperson said, Heise Australia works strictly according to the requirements of the relevant health authorities. We continue to work closely and responsibly with health departments across several states. None of their staff have tested positive in the last 7 days, the beef processor assured news.com.au. Yeah, probably last a week. Has it been? Is it because people haven't worked in an office environment so long that they haven't seen like a virus go all through an office anymore? South Australia's Health has approved a limited return to work for asymptomatic individuals in roles critical to maintaining supply, on the condition those individuals are feeling well and have isolated for 7 days, the meat supplier continued. If they meet these conditions, they must still be separated from others working until 10 days after their diagnosis. No worker has been or will be forced to work. There you go. So the unions lied. In fact, we are specifically instructing our workers not to present for work if they feel unwell or they do not meet the strict requirements of the relevant state health authorities. Woolworths has said it was halting arrangements with the South Australian abattoir until it understood more about the working conditions at the abattoir and how safe it was. So if you're shopping at Woolies now and you can't get your meat, you don't complain to the abattoirs, you don't complain to the government, you complain to Woolies and the unions because they're the ones that are keeping the shelves empty. Okay? There you go. Right there. We have temporarily suspended all supply through TAY's South Australia facility while we work with TAY's SA, Health and SafeWorks SA to understand the protocols currently in place for their team and operations, a Woolworths spokesperson told news.com.au. We were not involved in the decision approved by SA Health to introduce exceptionally temporary COVID measures at the site last week. Although major supermarket stores, including Woolworths, have been struggling to fill their shelves amid supply chain issues prompted by the COVID-19 pandemic, the grocery giant was confident that the suspension wouldn't drastically impact on the beef supply for its customers. Bullshit. Bullshit. We continue to work with a number of other sites. Well, what happens if the unions get shitty with those? Because now all they need to do is they need to claim that people are being forced to work, and then boom, their suppliers will cut them off. Their clients will cut off those meat supplies. Great negotiating tactic, hey? Anyway, move as much stock as we can. We expect all of our suppliers to adhere to the COVID safety protocols set by their relevant state authorities. So guys, let's have a talk about this one. So, when you're next at Woolies, next to Coles and at Aldi, and you can't get your meat, you know who to blame. This is setting a dangerous precedent where the union can use this, as a leverage or bargaining tool. Now, the people were not forced to go to work. They were asymptomatic and they were abiding by all the health and safety rules, but that isn't good enough. It isn't good enough. Bloody hell, we're a bunch of sooks in this country, a bunch of sooky, whinging, spoilt, entitled brats. No wonder all the work is getting sent overseas. Bloody hell. Kind of disgusting, really. And check out this video, guys, about all of these shortages and rationing that's happening at Woolies, Coles, and all the rest. You know, I'll put 2 on there, one for Woolies and one for Coles. So if you can find sausages, you can't buy enough. Awesome. Socialism for you, right there.